Hello, I'm Ryan. Welcome back to the SleepStory Collective. It's a real comfort to have you here tonight. Wherever you're listening from, whether you are already tucked beneath the covers, resting into your pillow, curled into a favorite corner of the sofa, or simply finding a quiet few moments at the end of a long day, I'm glad you made it here. At the SleepStory Collective, our purpose is singular: to help you unwind, settle into comfort, and slip calmly into sleep. So for the next little while, there is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to finish, no list you need to organize, no conversation you need to straighten out, no answer you need to force into place before morning. This time is not for solving. It is not for fixing. It is not for keeping everything moving. It is simply for softening. Let the room around you be exactly as it is. Let the night be exactly as it is. And let yourself, for a little while, be exactly as you are. You do not need to relax perfectly. You do not need to empty your mind. You do not need to drift off quickly to be doing this well. Sometimes rest begins before sleep arrives. Sometimes peace begins with nothing more than no longer following every thought all the way to its sharpest edge. So just begin by noticing the support beneath you. Notice where your head is resting. Notice the weight of your shoulders. Notice the places where your body is still holding on a little, and the places where it has already started to let go. There is no wrong way to listen tonight. If your mind wanders, that is all right. If the day still feels a little loud, that is all right too. We are not going to argue with the noise tonight. We are simply going to let it move a little farther away, like footsteps turning down a soft corridor, like a trolley rolling gently out of earshot. Take one slow breath in through the nose and let it go softly through the mouth. Again now, an easy breath in and an even easier breath out. One more, breathing in slowly and breathing out completely. You may like to unclench your jaw just a little. Let the tongue rest. Let the brow smooth. Let the eyes grow heavy, whether open or closed. Let the shoulders drop 1 degree lower than before. Then another degree lower still. If a thought arrives and says, "Do not forget this," or "Remember that," or "What about tomorrow?" you do not need to wrestle with it. Just let it sit a little farther away, as though it has been placed carefully on a folded napkin somewhere outside the room. Still there if needed, but not in your hands. not in your lap, not pressing against your chest. Tonight's story is for the slower edges of night. It is for the part of you that has carried too much brightness, too much motion, too much inner noise, too many unfinished little tasks standing around in the mind as though they all deserve attention at once. And it is for the part of you that still remembers, even faintly, what it feels like when care becomes practical, when kindness becomes orderly, when someone, somewhere, is quietly bringing exactly what is needed. No more, no less. As you listen, you may notice the story moving gently rather than quickly. That is on purpose. Nothing important will rush past you. Nothing sharp is coming. Nothing will ask for tension. This is a place of quiet wheels, low lamps, folded blankets, warm milk, polished corridors, and the relief of discovering that comfort can arrive in very small, very ordinary ways. And if sleep comes early, you may drift. If sleep comes late, you may simply rest. If you wake again in the night, perhaps some piece of the story will still be waiting for you, like a little lamp moving slowly down a hotel corridor. That is enough. That is more than enough. So now, let the day recede another little step. Let your breathing be natural. Let your hands become quiet. Let the muscles around your eyes loosen. And if you are ready, in whatever way ready means tonight, then we can begin. Tonight's story is called The Quiet Room Service Trolley of the Dream Hotel. You are already in your room when the story truly begins. The busiest part of the evening has long since faded. The corridors have fallen quiet. The fire downstairs has lowered to a deeper glow, and the whole Dream Hotel seems to have entered that special hour when even the walls begin to soften. Your room is warm, not overly warm, just warm in that steady, lived-in way that makes the body less inclined to brace. The curtains are half drawn. A narrow seam of moonlight remains at the window. A lamp glows low beside the bed. There is a glass of water on the nightstand, a robe folded over the chair, and beyond the door, somewhere in the blue carpeted hush of the corridor, the hotel continues breathing in its sleep. You have already changed for bed, already turned down the blanket, already sat for a while with the room around you, hoping the mind would follow the body into rest. And yet a small part of you is still awake in that familiar way, not distressed, not exactly restless, just not finished with the day, as though something in you still believes it must stay on duty a little longer. On the desk near the lamp lies the little welcome card left there earlier. You read it again, though you have already read it once before. If you wake, the hotel remains open in all the right places. For late tea, extra blankets, quiet company, or small practical comforts, listen for the trolley. Listen for the trolley. The phrase has stayed with you since you first noticed it. Not because it is mysterious, because it is so wonderfully ordinary. A trolley, not a spell, not a hidden chamber, not some elaborate ritual. Just a trolley, moving through the sleeping hotel, bringing comfort to whoever is still awake enough to need it. You sit on the edge of the bed for a little while longer, the blanket gathered around your knees, the lamp turned low, the room holding itself still around you. And just when you begin to think perhaps the card was only a charming detail, something reaches you through the corridor, a sound so soft you nearly miss it, a sound more felt than heard, the faint hushed roll of padded wheels moving over thick carpet. Not a rattle, not a clatter, no metal on tiles, no tray knocking lightly against itself. This trolley has learned how to move through the night. Its wheels whisper, its little shells make no complaint. It rolls with the kind of restraint that suggests it has been doing this for years, helping tired minds without ever startling them. You hold still. The sound comes nearer, then slows, then pauses somewhere just beyond your door. There is no knock at first, only the sense of a quiet presence waiting in the corridor. A patient presence, not assuming, not intruding, as though the trolley and whoever is steering it already know that late night comfort must never arrive too quickly. Then comes the gentlest tap, not loud enough to wake anyone who has already drifted off, only enough to reach someone who is still hovering near the edge of sleep. You rise, cross the room in your robe and slippers, and open the door. There in the corridor stands the room service trolley, and at once you understand why people remember it. Not because it is grand, not because it glitters, but because it has been prepared with extraordinary care for one very simple purpose: to move through the quiet parts of the hotel, bringing small practical kindnesses wherever they are needed. It is made of polished walnut and brushed brass. Its shells are edged in soft leather so that nothing slides. Its wheels are wrapped in dark felt. A tiny shaded lamp is clipped to the upper rail, casting a warm oval of light over folded napkins, porcelain cups, and a silver pot of something steaming very gently. A vase no taller than your hand holds one white flower, and from somewhere on the lower shelf comes the faint, clean scent of lavender. On the top shelf are the evening comforts: a silver teapot, a small jug of warm milk, a glass jar of honey, 2 porcelain cups, a little plate of thin toast fingers, a bowl with 1 poached pear shining softly in syrup, a covered dish that smells faintly of cinnamon and rice. Everything arranged with such calm precision that looking at it already seems to lower the volume of the mind. On the middle shelf are the things a room may need once words have become too much trouble: folded blankets, extra pillows in pale linen cases, thick gray socks tied in pairs with ribbon, hot water bottles in knitted covers, a small sewing tin, a reading lamp with a long cord, a book of cloud paintings, a little stack of thick cards, and a sharpened pencil, a box of tissues tucked discreetly between a lavender sachet and a folded sleep mask. On the bottom shelf are the gentler, stranger things: a shallow tray of smooth white stones, a narrow box lined with blue velvet, a bottle of linen spray, a little silver bell with no clapper, ornamental only, a bundle of rosemary tied with twine, a dish of wrapped peppermints, 2 tiny jam jars labeled for tomorrow and not tonight, and beside them, in neat script on a small card, the words, "For whatever still needs settling." Behind the trolley stands the woman guiding it. She looks to be somewhere in her late 50s perhaps, though there is such steadiness in her that age seems less important than rhythm. She wears a dark blue dress, a cream apron, and a cardigan the color of oat milk buttoned neatly at the wrist. Her silver hair is pinned up with quiet efficiency. Tiny spectacles rest low on her nose, and when she looks at you, her expression holds no surprise at all, only recognition. "Good evening," she says. Her voice is soft but not sleepy, the sort of voice that knows how to keep its shape in the night without becoming sharp. He must be still a little awake. There is no judgment in it, no suggestion that you ought to have settled by now. Only the simple observation of someone who has made a profession of meeting people at this exact hour. You tell her that yes, perhaps you are, only a little. She nods as though that answer is one she hears every evening. "It often begins as only a little," she says. "Would you care for anything from the trolley?" Then, after the smallest pause, "Or, if you like, you may walk with me for a while." Some guests find it easier to grow sleepy when the mind has something gentle to look at. You glance down the corridor. Blue carpet, low lamps, the still line of doors, the hush of the hotel gathered in the corners. And the offer lands exactly right. Not a conversation to undertake, not a problem to solve. Only a short walk beside a quiet trolley while it makes its rounds. Something about it feels deeply sensible. "I think I'd like that," you say. The woman smiles, but only a little, as if broad smiles are for daytime, and there are quieter, more suitable expressions for this hour. Of course, she says. I'm Mrs. Wren. Then she reaches to the top shelf and pours a little warm milk into one of the porcelain cups, adds the smallest ribbon of honey, and hands it to you before setting the cup on a saucer. For the corridor, she says, no one thinks particularly well on an empty stomach after midnight. You take the saucer and cup. The porcelain is warm in your hands. The milk smells faintly of vanilla and honey. Mrs. Wren turns the trolley with practiced ease. It makes almost no sound at all. Then, at the pace of someone who knows that the night is not to be hurried, she begins to move down the corridor, and you move with her. The first thing you notice is how different the corridor feels from out here. When you are inside a hotel room at night, the hallway is just the hallway, a strip of space beyond the door, a place for footsteps and the occasional distant sound. But when you step into it beside the trolley, the corridor becomes its own quiet world. The lamps are lower than they seemed before, the carpet deeper, the framed prints along the wall gentler in their colors. Everything softens once you are moving through it slowly enough to see. At the first door, Mrs. Wren stops. Room 12. A little card has been placed neatly in the brass holder outside. One extra pillow if convenient. Nothing urgent. You almost smile at that last line. Nothing urgent. It may be the most restful phrase in the whole hotel. Mrs. Wren reaches to the middle shelf, lifts a pillow in a pale linen case, and with one light knock, leaves it hanging on the outside handle in a cloth sling. No fuss, no waiting, no exchange required. The trolley moves on. At room 14 there is no card, only a pair of slippers left outside the threshold, toe to toe, with a tiny handwritten note resting on top. Window let in too much moonlight. Mrs. Wren reads the note, nods once, then reaches for the reading lamp and a folded curtain clip from the middle shelf. She opens the door only an inch, enough to slip inside without bringing any corridor brightness with her. She is gone no more than a minute. When she returns, the slippers are no longer outside the door. The clip is gone too. The moon can be surprisingly enthusiastic on this side of the building, she says quietly. Then the trolley rolls on. You sip the milk as you walk. Warm, slightly sweet. Not enough to wake you. Not enough to demand attention. Only enough to make the body feel accompanied. Ahead the corridor bends, and beyond the bend, the hotel opens into a long gallery overlooking the lobby below. From here you can see the check-in desk, the green lamp still glowing, the brass keys hanging in patient rows behind it, and the night clerk, far below, writing something in the ledger with the same calm hand you saw earlier. The hotel, you realize, does not so much sleep as lower itself into layers of quiet. Mrs. Wren notices you looking down. He stays there until dawn, she says. People rest better when they know some things remain in place. You look at the green lamp a moment longer. Yes, you say. That seems true. Mrs. Wren nods, then guides the trolley toward a small lift with rounded doors and a brass plaque beside it. The listening lift, for guests and comforts traveling upward. The doors open almost at once. Mrs. Wren rolls the trolley inside. You step in after her. There is just enough space for the both of you, the trolley, and the little pool of light from the shaded lamp fixed to its rail. The lift closes softly, then begins to rise with such gentleness that it feels less like machinery and more like being carried upward in a held breath. On the mirrored wall inside the lift hangs a small framed card. Tonight's suggested practice. Allow one thing to remain unsolved until morning. Only one is required. You read it, then look at your reflection in the mirror. The robe, the cup still warm in your hand, the softened face of someone who is already more tired and more ready than they were 10 minutes ago. Mrs. Wren does not interrupt your thought. She stands with one hand on the trolley rail and lets the lift do its work. Only when the doors open again onto the next floor does she speak. This is the quieter wing, she says. People who stay up here usually want a little less of everything. The doors part fully, and you roll out into a corridor even hushed than the one below. This floor is lined with darker carpet and long runner rugs whose patterns look almost like clouds if you do not stare too hard at them. The lamps here are shaded in pale blue silk. The air smells faintly of cedar, linen, and the rosemary bundle from the trolley's lower shelf. No sound comes from behind any of the doors, and yet the whole place feels inhabited in the gentlest possible way. Not empty, only settled. At room 21, a note waits in the holder. Chamomile, if there is some left. If not, warm water will do. Mrs. Wren smiles at the note. There is always chamomile left, she says. Then from the top shelf, she takes a small pot, pours hot water from a silver flask into one cup, drops in a little sachet from a tin, and leaves the cup covered on a tray outside the door with a sprig of mint laid beside it. The whole thing takes less than 30 seconds. Nothing dramatic, and yet it feels strangely moving. How little care can be needed, and how much difference it can make. At room 23, the request is stranger. Guest woke missing home. No knock. Just leave the blue blanket, please. Mrs. Wren reads it with complete seriousness. From the middle shelf, she takes out a folded blanket, soft and deep blue, with a cream border stitched by hand. She lays it over the brass rail outside the room as if dressing a chair. Then from the lower shelf, she adds one white stone and a little card. For borrowed steadiness. Does that help? You ask quietly. Mrs. Wren glances toward the closed door. Often, she says. People do not always need solutions in the night. She straightens the blanket edge. Sometimes they need color, weight, warmth, and the feeling that someone has understood the request correctly. The trolley moves on, its little lamp shining steadily, its shelves still so carefully arranged. And the more you walk beside it, the more the trolley seems to become less an object and more a moving room of its own. A little corridor within the corridor. A small traveling promise that if some part of the night still needs tending, there is a way to tend it. No fuss, no brightness, no overstatement. At the end of the floor is a glass door leading to the winter garden. Mrs. Wren pushes through it, and the air changes at once. Fresher, green, a little cooler. The moonlight above the glass roof lays pale shapes over the tiled paths and the leaves of the sleeping plants. A small fountain spills from one stone bowl to another with a sound so even and unhurried that your breathing begins to follow it without instruction. The trolley moves slowly between beds of lavender, mint, lemon balm, and silver green rosemary. At one wall, a cabinet of shallow drawers stands open a fraction, each drawer labeled in brass. Lavender for linens, mint for tea, lemon balm for late minds, rosemary for returning, cloud thyme, gentle sage. Mrs. Wren stops at the cabinet and opens one drawer fully. And she takes 3 tiny paper sachets from a stack and fills them with a measured pinch of lemon balm and lavender. "Top floor requests," she says. Then after a pause, "People often ask for different things once the night gets deeper." You watch her fold each sachet neatly. Her hands move without hurry and without waste. Every action seems to have found its final, quiet form long ago. She places the sachets on the lower shelf beside the blue velvet box. Then from a hook above the drawer, she takes a sprig of rosemary and tucks it through the trolley handle. A little green against the brass, a little living thing moving with the lamp and the cups and the blankets. At the center of the winter garden, beside the fountain, stands a narrow stone bench. Mrs. Wren pauses the trolley there. "Would you like to sit for a moment?" she asks. "Or shall we keep moving?" You realize, a little to your surprise, that there is no pressure in either direction. Sitting would be fine. Walking on would be fine. The whole hotel seems designed around this same quiet principle. No momentum must be obeyed merely because it has begun. "I think I'd like to keep going," you say. Mrs. Wren nods. That is usually the best sign. She turns the trolley again, and together you leave the winter garden by a side door that opens into the rear corridor of the night kitchen. Here the air holds warmer scents: milk, bread, rice, vanilla, a little cinnamon, a little orange peel. The kitchen itself is softly lit by 2 hanging lamps over a broad wooden island. Copper pans gleam dull gold above the stove. A cook in rolled sleeves is rinsing out a saucepan at the sink. When he looks up and sees Mrs. Wren in the trolley, he does not seem at all surprised, only reaches automatically for a cloth and dries his hands. "Anything needed upstairs?" he asks. "2 lemon balm sachets, 1 pear, 1 small rice pudding, and another flask of hot water," says Mrs. Wren. The cook nods as though this were the most ordinary sentence in the world, which here, perhaps it is. He moves to the stove and begins assembling the requested things with the same quiet efficiency you have now come to recognize as the hotel's native language. While he works, your eyes move over the kitchen. A farmhouse table at the center with a bowl of apples, shelves of pale plates and blue-rimmed bowls, a little card left in a silver stand beside a cooling loaf of bread. Night kitchen guidance. Eat slowly, think less. No one here is trying to become a better person. Even now, in the middle of the night, the words are both comforting and faintly funny. A joke made with such gentleness that it belongs perfectly to the room. The cook hands Mrs. Wren a fresh flask and a bowl covered with a small plate to keep in the warmth. Then he adds one extra thing, a tiny dish of stewed pear with 2 spoonfuls only. "For whoever is walking the rounds," he says, nodding almost imperceptibly toward you. Mrs. Wren accepts it without ceremony and sets it on the trolley, then takes a clean spoon from a drawer and offers it to you. "Only if you like," she says. You do. The pear is soft and warm and faintly scented with clove. It tastes like the edible version of a lamp left low. When you leave the kitchen, the corridor seems quieter than before, though perhaps that is only because something in you has continued unwinding. The cup of milk is empty now. The spoon rests on its saucer, and the small rhythm of the trolley wheels has already become familiar enough that you no longer really hear it as sound, more as accompaniment, a steady presence at your side. The next floor is reached by a back staircase rather than the lift. Mrs. Wren says the trolley prefers the stairs at this hour. You do not ask what she means by that. The sentence arrives with such matter-of-fact calm that it feels unwise to over-examine it. So you follow her up one slow flight, then another. The trolley rises step by step without complaint, its felt wheels barely whispering against the stair edges. At the landing hangs a framed row of old room service cards from years ago. Bring tea, 1 extra blanket, a quieter pillow if there is such a thing. Please remove the mirror until morning. Toast and marmalade and no conversation. A map of the stars above the east roof. The little display pleases you more than it should. All those small human requests, all those different shapes of tiredness, all treated with respect. This floor gets the oddest notes, says Mrs. Wren. People are more truthful after 1 in the morning. She says it so calmly that you almost laugh. Then the trolley turns onto the top corridor. The ceiling slopes here. The windows are narrower. the lamps even lower. This, you sense at once, is the quietest level of the dream hotel. A floor for those whose minds take a little longer to set their bags down. At room 31, the request card reads, "Could the trolley stop outside for half a minute? No service needed, just the sound." Mrs. Wren reads the card and nods, then parks the trolley directly outside the door. For 30 long seconds, she does nothing at all, only rests one hand lightly on the handle while the little lamp glows and the rosemary sprig shifts almost imperceptibly in the corridor air. You understand at once. The guest behind the door does not need food, or tea, or a blanket. Only the reassurance that the trolley is still making its rounds, that comfort is moving through the building, even if it does not come in. When the half minute is over, Mrs. Wren inclines her head once to the closed door, as if to say goodnight without words, then moves on. At room 33, the request says, "Hot water bottle and the cloud book, if it is not already borrowed." Mrs. Wren lifts a hot water bottle in its knitted cover from the middle shelf, then takes the book of cloud paintings and places both in a hanging sling outside the door. Tucked into the book is a little card. No need to finish the chapter. "You send that with the cloud book?" you ask. "Always," says Mrs. Wren. "People need permission for different things." At room 35, there is no card at all, only the tiniest strip of blue ribbon tied to the brass number. Mrs. Wren stops immediately. "Ah," she says very quietly. Then from the lower shelf she takes a white stone, a lavender sachet, and the blue velvet box. You watch as she places the sachet and stone on the small tray, writes something on a folded card, then slips the blue velvet box under her arm before knocking once, gently. The door opens only an inch. You cannot see the guest, only the line of warm light inside. Mrs. Wren speaks in a voice too low for you to hear. A hand appears, takes the tray, then hesitates. Mrs. Wren offers the velvet box too. The hand accepts it. The door closes. When she returns to the trolley, the box is gone. You do not ask immediately. The trolley rolls on a little way before you say, "What was the ribbon?" Mrs. Wren adjusts the hot water flask. "Blue ribbon means the mind is too full for spoken requests," she says. "The velvet box is for whatever does not need to stay in the room." You think of the check-in desk below, the shelves behind the clerk, the boxes and drawers for noise and watchfulness and overthinking. Mrs. Wren seems to read the connection in your silence. "Some things are checked in downstairs," she says. "Some need collecting where they begin." At the end of the corridor, beside a little dormer window, stands a narrow table with fresh stationery and a brass pen. Above it hangs a sign, "Late Note Station," for anything that would be kinder in the morning. On the table are 3 sealed envelopes already waiting in a tray. A thoughtful hotel, you realize, is one that assumes people may wake with too much in mind and gives them a place to set it down before it multiplies. Mrs. Wren takes a clean stack of note cards from a drawer in the table and replenishes the trolley supply. Then she notices you looking at the tray. "Would you like to leave something for morning?" she asks. You think about it. Perhaps there is something, a small practical thought, a name to remember, a task not yet closed. But the idea of writing it now feels heavier than it did downstairs in the letter room. "Not tonight," you say. Mrs. Wren nods. That is also a useful message to leave. The trolley turns once more, and this time, instead of stopping at another room, it comes to rest at the very end of the floor, where a wide little alcove has been made beside the last window. There is a bench here, a rug, a low shelf with 2 books and a bowl of wrapped peppermints. The moonlight through the glass is pale and clean, and beyond the hotel roofline, the sky rests over the town in deep velvet blue. From this height, the streets below look like folded ribbon, everything tucked in, everything quieter than before. Mrs. Wren parks the trolley beside the bench, then takes the covered bowl from the top shelf and lifts the plate away. Steam rises. Rice pudding, only a little, sprinkled with the faintest trace of cinnamon. She sets it on the bench between you with the dish of pear and hands you a second spoon. "We stop here most nights," she says. "It is where the trolley catches its breath." You do not point out the trolleys do not breathe. Here, in this hotel, it feels entirely possible that they do. You each take a spoonful in the moonlit alcove. The rice pudding is soft and faintly sweet, the pear darker and warmer now than before. Neither of you speaks for a while. There is no need. The hotel below continues in its layered hush. A clock somewhere gives one soft note. Then nothing. The little lamp on the trolley keeps shining. The rosemary sprig stirs once, and the night seems to become even deeper and more companionable around the two of you. After a time, Mrs. Wren says, "People think room service is about trays." You turn slightly toward her. She looks out through the window as she speaks. But trays are only the visible part. She folds her hands in her lap. Mostly, it is about timing. She glances toward the trolley, knowing when someone needs warmth rather than words, when they need sweetness rather than advice, when they need a heavier blanket or a dimmer lamp or something to hold in the hand until the body remembers it is safe to stop bracing. She smooths one finger along the edge of the napkin. A trolley is only useful if it arrives correctly. You think about that. How much of comfort depends not only on what is given, but when. A blanket at the wrong hour is just a blanket. Warm milk too early is just milk. A kind sentence before someone is ready to hear it can slide right past them and disappear. But when the timing is right, Even the smallest thing can seem to settle the whole room. Mrs. Wren seems satisfied by your silence, perhaps because it is the silence of someone letting a thought rest where it landed. She stands, tucks the spoon neatly beneath the dish, replaces the cover over the rice pudding bowl, then returns everything to the trolley in the order it came from it. No movement wasted, no object left adrift. You notice suddenly how soothing this is too. The order of it, the gentle sequence, taking out, using, returning. The whole night arranged as though it can be handled in parts. "We should take you back," she says after a while. "People grow sleepiest on the way back." Then, seeing your expression, she adds, "It happens almost every night." As if to reassure you that drowsiness coming upon a person slowly while walking beside a room service trolley is one of the more ordinary things in the world. Perhaps here it is. So you turn back along the top corridor. This time the hotel seems even softer, the lamps more golden, the carpet deeper, the doors less like doors and more like sleeping boundaries holding quiet worlds behind them. At room 31, where the guest had asked only for the sound, the little blue card has been turned over. One side reads, "Still awake." The other side reads, "Drifting now." Mrs. Wren smiles faintly when she sees it, then rolls on. Down the back staircase, across the rear corridor, past the station of late notes, through the warm edge of the night kitchen, now darker than before. The cook has gone. Only one lamp remains above the island, a loaf under cloth, a mug drying on a rack, the kitchen itself half asleep. Then into the winter garden, where the fountain still speaks its patient rhythm, and the herbs still hold their cool scents beneath the glass roof. In the garden, Mrs. Wren pauses once more at the herb drawers, not to replenish this time, only to set the empty pear dish down on a side shelf for morning. You look up through the glass and see the moon passing behind a cloud. The whole roof darkens for a moment. Then light returns in a softer, more diffused way. Everything in the garden seems gentler beneath it. The leaves, the tiled path, the fountain bowl, the paper sachets folded neatly on the trolley shelf. When you step back into the corridor beyond, you realize something with mild surprise. You are sleepy. Not dramatically, not with a sudden collapse into exhaustion, only with that unmistakable, delicious heaviness that begins behind the eyes and spreads very slowly through the shoulders and limbs. The body has stopped preparing for more. It has begun, instead, to anticipate rest. Mrs. Wren notices too. She does not mention it directly, only says, "Would you like your room brought something simple?" The question feels exactly right. Not what do you need, not what is wrong, only would you like something simple? You look at the trolley, at the folded blankets, the hot water bottle, the little cards, the warm pot, the remaining rice pudding, the herbs, the stones, all the small answers waiting quietly on its shelves. Yes, you say after a moment. I think I would. Mrs. Wren nods once. Then, as though this has already been decided somewhere ahead of time, begins assembling a tray. One porcelain cup, warm milk with the smallest line of honey, a little bowl of the remaining rice pudding, one lavender and lemon balm sachet, a white stone, an extra pillow in a pale case, and from the lower shelf, a folded card. She writes on it in neat dark script and places it beside the cup. What does it say, you ask? Mrs. Wren glances at the card, then hands it to you to read. Tonight requires nothing further of you. It is such a simple sentence, such a direct sentence. And perhaps because the night has already lowered all the unnecessary noise, it reaches you more deeply than it would have earlier. Tonight requires nothing further of you. You read it once, then again, then set it carefully back on the tray. The listening lift takes you down one floor, then another, and at last you are back in the corridor outside your room. The carpet here seems wonderfully familiar now. The little lamp outside room 12 is dimmer than before. The extra pillow has long since been taken in. At room 14, the slippers are no longer outside the door. Every small request the trolley answered has already been absorbed into the deeper quiet of the building. Mrs. Wren stops outside your door. Then, with a kind of quiet ceremony, parks the trolley there and arranges the tray on a little folding stand stored beneath the lowest shelf. Cup, bowl, card, stone, sachet, pillow resting over the handle. Everything in its place. Nothing excessive, nothing neglected. There, she says, as ordered. You smile, though you never really placed an order in the usual sense. Mrs. Wren seems to understand. The best orders are often not spoken clearly at first, she says. People rarely know the exact shape of comfort until they see it arriving. Then she adjusts the edge of the napkin once, a tiny finishing touch. You thank her, and because the night has made honesty easier, you say that you are already more tired than you were. Mrs. Wren nods without surprise. The trolley helps, she says. Then, after the slightest pause, so does being accompanied long enough for the mind to stop standing in the doorway. You hold the sentence for a moment, the mind standing in the doorway. Yes, that is exactly how it had felt earlier. Half in, half out, not yet willing to close up for the night. Mrs. Wren takes hold of the trolley again, the lamp clipped to its rail still glowing softly. "There will be one more round before dawn," she says. "So if you wake, listen again." Then, with no flourish, no over goodbye, she inclines her head and begins to roll the trolley onward down the corridor. It moves away exactly as it arrived. Soft wheels, warm light, no clatter, only the hush of a useful kindness continuing elsewhere. You stand a moment longer in the corridor watching until the trolley rounds the bend and disappears. Then you lift the tray, take the extra pillow under one arm, and step back into your room. Inside, the air feels even more welcoming than before. Perhaps because now it contains not just the general comfort of a well-kept room, but the specific comfort of something brought carefully to you in the exact hour it was needed. You set the tray on the bedside table, the extra pillow beside the others, the sachet tucked beneath the edge of the blanket where its scent will rise softly rather than insistently. Then you sit on the edge of the bed for a moment and look at what the trolley has left. The warm cup, the small bowl, the white stone, the card with its calm sentence. Nothing extravagant, nothing theatrical, and yet the room feels wholly altered by their presence, as though the night itself has been answered correctly. You take one spoonful of rice pudding, then another. Not hungry exactly, only glad. The kind of glad that comes when something in the body realizes it no longer needs to go searching for what it lacked. The warm milk is just sweet enough. The white stone sits cool and smooth in your palm. You turn it over once, then set it on the card as though anchoring the words there. Tonight requires nothing further of you. At last you slip beneath the blanket again. This time the bed receives you differently, or perhaps you receive it differently. The pillow feels more willing, the mattress more certain. The room no longer something you are trying to settle into, but something already settling around you of its own accord. You place the extra pillow lightly against your back. The sachet breathes lavender and lemon balm near your shoulder, and the last of the milk leaves warmth in your chest as you set the cup aside and lower the lamp one small turn further down. The room grows amber, then honey-colored, then almost entirely shadowed, except for the bedside pool of light and the narrow silver seam between the curtains. Outside that seam, the garden below rests in moonlight. The pond catches one pale reflection. The willow leans over it, and though you cannot see the corridors from here, you can imagine them. The trolley still moving somewhere through the hotel. One last round, one last series of small answers, one last quiet procession of cups, blankets, notes, and white stones. You lie on your side, one hand beneath your cheek, the other resting loosely over the blanket. The stone still faintly cool where your fingers touched it. And for a while, you simply listen. The almost sound of the building at night. A distant board settling. A pipe cooling somewhere in the wall. A hush so complete that it seems to gather around every object in the room and soften its outline. Then, because the mind is not entirely finished being itself, one thought rises. A practical thought. Tomorrow. Something to remember. Something not fully complete. It arrives softly enough that you do not resent it, only notice it. And almost immediately, another thought follows. Not the practical one itself, the trolley, the lower shelf, the note cards, the little box, the calm order of it all. And just like that, the practical thought seems to lose its urgency. It can wait on a shelf somewhere. It can wait beside folded blankets and rosemary and the soft lamplight of the corridor. It does not need to sit up in bed with you. A great deal of peace, you begin to realize, may come not from making the mind empty, but from giving it somewhere better to set things down. A tray, a drawer, a folded card, a shelf behind a desk, a box lined with velvet, a trolley moving quietly through the night saying, yes, that too can be carried for a while. And once that idea settles in you, the body loosens another degree, then another. The shoulders sink more fully into the mattress. The jaw gives up its small efforts. The brow smooths. The breath becomes lower and wider, not because you told it to, because nothing is pressing upward against it anymore. You think of the guests in the other rooms, the extra pillow in room 12, the moon-shaded window in 14, the chamomile outside 21, the blue blanket in 23, the cloud book at 33, the blue ribbon request at 35. All those different shapes of wakefulness, all met without fuss, all answered in the same quiet language of practical care. There is something deeply comforting in that, too, that the hotel does not demand one correct way of being tired. It does not insist that all wakefulness means the same thing. It knows that one person needs warmth, another needs sweetness, another needs a heavier blanket, another needs only the sound of the trolley waiting for half a minute outside the door. Another needs a place to put whatever has become too heavy to keep in the room. And because the hotel understands this, the whole building feels kinder, smarter, more restful. The room grows softer around you. The bed, the chair with the robe over it, the emptied cup, the tray on the bedside table, the little card with its one calm sentence, the white stone resting on top. The whole arrangement now looks less like service and more like permission. Permission to stop preparing. Permission to stop performing wakefulness. Permission to stop being the only one responsible for keeping everything in order. If the trolley were to pass your room again now, you think, you would not need anything else from it. Not because everything in life is settled, only because for this night, in this room, enough has been brought. Enough warmth, enough sweetness, enough order, enough steadiness. Enough of that deep practical kindness that makes the body believe at last that it may let go. And once the body believes that, so much else begins to follow. The thoughts dim slightly at the edges. The inner voice lowers its own lamp. The little urges to plan and rehearse and organize begin to wander off one by one, as if embarrassed to have stayed so late in a place that has already made up the bed. Now the hotel seems to continue all around you in quiet layers. The green desk lamp below, the keys hanging motionless on their hooks, the night kitchen with one lamp left on, the winter garden breathing herbs into the moonlit air, the late note station with its tray of envelopes, the top corridor under the sloped roof, the alcove where the trolley stopped to catch its breath, the rosemary tied to the brass handle, the soft felt wheels, the tiny lamp clipped to the rail. All of it held together by a calm so deep, it begins to feel almost architectural. Perhaps that is what the Dream Hotel does best. Not grand gestures, not dramatic transformations, only structure, gentle structure, warm structure. A place for this, a shelf for that, a pillow here, a stone there, a tray brought at the correct hour. A corridor quiet enough for the mind to hear itself growing tired. A trolley that arrives with exactly enough. And because there is now structure around your tiredness, there can finally be softness within it. Because there is a system for the small leftover needs of the night, the mind no longer has to clutch them all at once. Because there are shelves for them, and drawers, and folded notes, and other hands prepared to carry them a little way. Your breathing has grown slower now. Not through effort, through permission. The kind of slow breath that begins when the body no longer expects interruption, when the shoulders stop making themselves ready, when the chest stops holding a little extra tension just in case. When the mind sees the tray at the bedside and understands that even now, in the dark quiet of night, care can still arrive. And if a stray thought comes now, let it come. You do not need to slam the door on it. You do not need to negotiate with it on the landing. You may simply imagine laying it on a folded napkin at the edge of the trolley, beside the cup, beside the blanket, beside the little stack of thick cards and the sharpened pencil. Let it ride quietly away down the corridor until morning is ready to receive it. Nothing is denied. Nothing is thrown away. Nothing is made shameful simply because it arrived late. It is all given a place, a dimmer place, a kinder place, a place where it no longer needs to shout to be remembered. And once the mind understands there is somewhere for these things to go, it often softens more quickly than it expected to. The blanket lies over you with just the right weight. The extra pillow steadies your back. The scent of lavender and lemon balm remains faint and clean beside you. The room is warm, but not close. The lamp is low enough now that the shadows have become friendly. And all at once there is a great softness gathering behind the eyes, around the ribs, down through the shoulders, along the spine, into the hips and legs and ankles. The kind of softness that says the work of being alert is ending now. If sleep has not yet taken you, it is near. You can feel it in the way language is beginning to loosen, in the way pictures are becoming softer around the edges, in the way the story no longer needs to travel anywhere else, because now the point is not movement. Now the point is drift. Now the point is allowing the little trolley of the story to continue somewhere beyond you while you grow heavier and quieter where you are. The trolley may still be moving through the hotel now, past blue carpeted doors, past the gallery above the green desk lamp, past the winter garden and its moonlit leaves, past the night kitchen with its cooled pans and covered loaf, past the alcove under the roof where moonlight rests on the bench, its little lamp glowing, its rosemary sprig stirring, its shelves still holding some small answer for someone who is not quite asleep yet. Maybe it stops outside another room for half a minute so that someone can listen to the sound of care passing by. Maybe of the card that says, "No need to finish the chapter." Maybe or some hot water and lemon balm. Maybe a blue blanket. Maybe a white stone. Maybe nothing more than the reassurance that comfort of still moving through the building, even with most of the lights have console. And here, in your room, perhaps the best comfort is simply that you know it exists. The trolley, the route, the rounds, the hour of it, the practical tenderness of it, the other no-throat mind with full night on its own when their broad corridors, shelves, notes, cups, blankets, and quiet hands prepared to help. That may be enough, more than enough. Enough for just the stocks to perfect at your hands to mind. Enough for the divorce to lengthen. Enough for the thoughts to seconds of the foot of the bed waiting to be consulted. Enough for the hobby of the roots to your coordination, lamp by lamp. And now, as the room grows softer still, I'll with you for a little with local longer. No curiosity with part. No need to prod. Just let my voice rest somewhere nearby. Like that little trolley lamp moving through a distant corridor. Low, warm, steady, not asking anything from you. You have done enough for one day. You have carried enough. You have answered enough. You have organized enough. You have kept enough in motion. And now you are allowed to lay it down. Not forever, just for the night. Just long enough for the mind to remember what it feels like not to be on duty. Let the bed hold the weight you do not need to hold. Let the darkness around you be gentle and complete. Let the imagined sounds of the hotel become the sounds of safety. A distant board settling, a wheel whispering over carpet, a low clock somewhere below stairs marking time so softly it barely matters. A cup being rinsed in another room and set upside down to dry. The night doing what the night has always done when given half a chance. Lowering the lights, quieting the corridors, protecting sleep with repetition. If a stray thought returns, let it return in a softened shape, not as a demand, only as a late request slipped into the brass holder outside a room. Something that can be met in the right hour. You do not need to solve it on the spot. You do not need to bring it into bed. You may simply imagine the trolley collecting it gently, along with all the other little needs of the sleeping hotel. There is room for it. There is room for all of it. And because there is room, there can be ease. Feel once more the warmth of the blanket, the calm weight over your chest, the softness beneath your cheek, the steadiness at your back, the looseness of the jaw, the the smoothness of the brow, the heaviness gathering in the shoulders, the quieting of the hands, the slower rhythm of the breath, all of it moving together toward rest. You do not need to arrive at sleep all at once. You can approach it by degrees. One breath, then another. One muscle unclenching, then the next. One thought dimming, then the next. One little piece of the day being placed carefully on a tray, then another, until gradually, naturally, you find yourself somewhere much quieter than where you began. And if some part of you is still listening, still keeping one small watch, let that part hear this. Nothing more is required tonight. You are not behind in this moment. You are not missing anything in this moment. You are not failing at rest if it comes slowly. Rest has already begun. Sleep may follow it, but rest has already begun. Imagine the trolley one last time. The polished walnut shelves, the brushed brass rail, the little shaded lamp, the warm cup, the folded blanket, the hot water bottle in its knitted cover, the white stones, the rosemary tied to the handle, the note cards, the sharpened pencil, the soft felt wheels carrying comfort down the corridor without waking anyone who does not need to wake. See how still and competent it all is. See how well it holds what the night has asked of it. Morning will know what to do with practical things. Morning is good at lists and replies and remembering and decisions. Night is not for that. Night is for lowering the lamp. Night is for warm milk and folded blankets and slowly dimming thoughts. Night is for small answers. Night is for letting the world become a little less bright and a great deal more kind. Somewhere in the hotel, the clerk remains at the desk. Somewhere the cook has washed the last cup. Somewhere the winter garden is resting under moonlit glass. Somewhere a guest has taken in an extra pillow and already drifted off. Somewhere a blue blanket has softened homesickness. Somewhere a cloud book lies open, face down on a quilt. Somewhere a little box lined with blue velvet is holding what no longer needs to stay in the room. And you, here beneath the blanket, need do absolutely nothing now, except continue drifting. If sleep comes in a wave, let it take you. If it comes in a slow settling, let it settle. If you hover at the edge a little longer, that is all right too. Even the edge of sleep is a gentle country. You do not need to cross it quickly. You can stand there for a while, listening to the hush until one moment becomes the next, and you hardly notice when wakefulness loosens its grip. So let your breathing stay easy. Let your body grow heavy. Let the story thin into feeling. Let the room remain around you in whatever way you need. A low lamp, a quiet bed, a tray on the table, a white stone, a folded card, a trolley somewhere in the hotel still making its rounds, a building full of small, thoughtful structures for whatever remains unsettled at the end of the day. And beneath all of that, one true thing. Your thoughts do not need to be loud tonight. They do not need to be solved tonight. They do not even need to stay in the room with you. They may be placed carefully elsewhere. They may wait under softer light. They may rest, and so may you. Sleep gently now. Sleep deeply if you can. Rest easily if that is what comes first. And know that in this little corner of the night, with Ryan keeping you company, and the quiet room service trolley of the Dream Hotel moving softly through your imagination, you are safe to let go. Good night.